Yo, what is good YouTube? I'm Richie Kim, and today I'm going to be bringing you all the performance review on the Nike Air Zoom GT Run. Before we get started, if you all enjoy sneaker content just like this, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button down below, and also hit that bell notification button so you never miss another video just like this. But anyways, let's get right into it. As always, starting off with the traction, the Air Zoom GT Run features like this squiggly ridgeline traction pattern that's all across the outsole, and it's very widely spaced, and the grooves are pretty thin. But I would say overall, the traction is pretty good. There are definitely times where I kind of slayed to a stop, and this happened, I would say maybe 30% of the time, and that was on the dustier courts. However, on the clean courts slash like mildly dusty, the traction was really good. The bite is really hard, but just know that if you are playing on those dustier courts, you may actually slide to a stop. And I don't know why, because honestly the dust pickup on here is pretty minimal. The dust doesn't get stuck in between the grooves or anything because the grooves are very spaced apart, but some dust can collect actually on the traction pattern itself, so that is something you have to watch out for. And if you're playing on those dusty courts, just give it a quick wipe so you do have some good stops, but also keep in mind that you may actually slide to a stop, so just be prepared for that. So moving on to the cushion, the Nike Air Zoom GT Run features a full-length React midsole with a React insole, and also a 4-foot Zoom unit with a 4-foot Zoom Strobel unit on top of that. I know that's a lot of cushion, that's a lot of tech in the shoe, but yeah, the cushion in here is really nice. You get a lot of impact protection in the heel from the React midsole. It's not too soft. You still get like good responsiveness and stuff, but you also get a little bit of bounce back and a lot of impact protection. And up in the forefoot, that React does continue, but inside of this React, we have a bottom-loaded 4-foot Zoom unit, and on top of that, we have a 4-foot Zoom Strobel unit. And this is the first time, I think Nike has done like a 4-foot Zoom Strobel unit. Usually it's, just full length, but they have specifically targeted it in the 4-foot in this shoe, and it is very bouncy, very nice. Maybe even a little too bouncy, but it still feels really nice. Responsiveness is pretty good. Not the best, obviously, because of all the zoom in there, and you do have a lot of impact protection. One thing to note about the cushion though is the 4-foot Zoom Strobel unit does protrude up a little bit, so you can actually feel the Zoom unit and your foot doesn't lay flat. The 4-foot area does feel higher than the rest of the shoe. However, once you put pressure on the area, the Zoom unit's compressed, so it doesn't feel weird. But if you are actually trying to focus on it, you can feel your forefoot is actually higher than the rest of your foot, which does feel a little weird and does take a little bit of time to get used to. But if you're actually playing it and stuff, and you're pretty predominantly on your forefoot, you really won't notice a difference. But that is one thing to note that's kind of different about this cushion setup. Overall, the cushion in the GT Run is really good. So moving on to the materials, Nike states that the GT Run features a 2-layer upper. So I think this upper layer is some sort of just very thin mesh, and it does have some rubberized points on it as well. And then underneath, it is backed by a slightly stronger material. And overall, the materials on here are probably the least premium thing about this shoe. I really don't like the materials. They just don't look good once they're worn in. And yeah, it just feels kind of cheap. It's very thin. Just doesn't feel premium for the price that you pay for the shoe. However, in terms of the performance, they get the job done just fine. I would say that the shoe isn't that warm compared to some other things that have thicker materials, which I guess is a plus from the thin materials that they do use. But yeah, just to the touch, it just doesn't feel that great. But in terms of performance, it gets the job done just fine. The tongue as well is also a very thin screen mesh. It does have some padding in strategic areas right here and on the sides that kind of run up and down the tongue to make sure the laces don't dig into your feet when you tighten them up. But yeah, the materials Sure, they get the job done in terms of that performance, but just from a quality standpoint, I really wish that they used something nicer on such an expensive shoe. So moving on to the fit, I would say that the GT Run does run pretty true to size. I'm a slightly wide footer and I went true to size and I felt perfectly fine. Maybe a little bit of pressure where this like midsole comes up onto the upper of the shoe, but it didn't really bother me. If you do have, wide feet, I would probably recommend you all go up a half size because you will probably get irritation right here. However, if you have slightly wide feet, regular feet, narrow feet, I think going true to size is the way to go. The materials, do lie pretty nicely over the foot. There is some bubbling right here, but that's just because of this like second layer, I guess. But it really does feel like the materials do lie very nicely over the foot. And then, the tongue as well. You also have some like padding in the heel area as well. So yeah, overall, the fit in the GT Run was pretty good. So moving on to the support, I didn't have any issues with the support in the GT Run. You do have an internal heel counter, which keeps your heel locked in. And you do also have some heel padding on the inside of the shoe, like I mentioned earlier. As far as side-to-side movement on the footbed, I didn't have any issues. The materials do a great job of keeping you planted on that footbed, as well as the insole. It does help keep you planted because it is that React insole and it's very, very sticky. And yeah, your feet really aren't going anywhere. And then, on top of that, you do have the midsole that rises up above, which acts as a container for your foot as well. If you like to make hard lateral movements, you're covered here as well. This is a fairly wide base and the rubber actually forms an outrigger as well, so you're covered. And then as far as torsional rigidity and stability goes, I don't think there's actually a torsion plate in here, but this is pretty stiff and rigid, so you're covered there as well. Overall, I would say that the support in the GT Run is pretty good. The Nike Air Zoom GT Run retails for $175, and that is a very, very expensive shoe, but is it worth the price? I would say yes. You are getting great tech, great cushion, pretty good traction. The materials don't feel like too premium in terms of that quality, but in terms of the performance, it gets the job done. So if you all wanted a shoe with like a really nice cushion setup, then I would say go for it. Like, this is a really nice shoe. Really, my only gripes with the shoe are the quality of the materials for the price, and then the traction. Like I said, if you are playing on those dustier courts, there were times where I slid to a stop. I never slipped out or anything, but I did slide to a stop. So that is just something to keep in mind if you like to make those lateral movements, basically, where you really need a quick shift of direction. You're gonna slide to a stop rather than being able to plant and then change that direction. Actually, I take that back. I do have one more gripe with the shoe, and it is because of the insole. I mean, don't get me wrong, the React insole is nice and everything, but because this is a half booty upper, the tongue is connected, and it connects all the way down to this like bottom portion of the shoe as well. So it's really hard to slide your foot into the shoe just like when you're putting on the shoe, because the React sock liner or the insole, it just like grabs your sock, and your sock is going to get crumpled up and it gets a little uncomfortable. So you have to find ways of trying to basically straighten out your sock as you're putting on the shoe. Otherwise, you're not going to have a good time wearing the shoe. However, outside of those, I would say that this is a pretty good shoe. It is just very, very expensive. And personally, I would probably play in something a little bit cheaper and has better performance, like the KD14. But everyone has their own personal opinion. If you all wanted to pick up a pair of these because of the crazy cushion setup, I would say go for it. But me personally, I would rather play in something like the KD14. That's pretty much it for this performance review. If you all like this video, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button down below and hit that bell notification so you never miss another video just like this. Also, please smash that thumbs up button for me, as it really does help me out. Check out this video on my left and on my right, and that's pretty much it. Until next time, peace.